This week has been, to say the least, a very hard week for me. I have experienced a lot of rejection, and I just feel like it was been a hard week, I think, for a black weirdo such as myself. And I just wanted to sort of get on here and talk about like, don't allow black normative culture to suppress your awareness. And I feel like everyone from Black normies and Black widows especially need to hear this. This week has been pretty hard for me. I'm an artist, a filmmaker specifically, and so much of my work reflects myself and my sort of eclectic perspective or artistic vision. And I think navigating that and as an artist and going through the grant process and these institutions, I think for someone like me has been so daunting because I feel like my work should resonate with, a community that has thrived on innovation and changing cultures. And yet I find myself so isolated in these institutions, or marginalized, I should say, by these institutions. That really don't want to propel more alternative, eclectic Black artists. And as a Black weirdo, a self-identified Black weirdo, I just want to tell other Black weirdos out there that do not allow Black normies to fucking get you down. I, this has sort of been like my entire life, being a Black weirdo, being a Black alternative person, and always being surrounded by the most normative Black people imaginable. Not think outside the box. They love that box. They want to force you inside that box violently if they have to resort to that. And as someone who has overcame many obstacles in my life, getting to this point of self-expression, um, to articulate my own perspective confidently without making my feeling like I have to make myself small or dumb myself down. I want to tell other Black weirdos out there that we are the ones that lay the foundation for a lot of Black culture. Black weird people is what has progressed Black culture. Uh, Truly, we are the innovators. We are the ones who are creating different music genres. You know, Black normies love to talk about how Black people created rock and roll, grunge, punk, but very much don't want to highlight these people that exist currently. They want to, resurrect a dead person, someone who doesn't have their voice and their power anymore. To say that look how innovative we are, but not really highlight those voices currently as they are alive and well. And Black weirdos, we have laid the foundation down. I think of all the way from the blues, from Screaming Hal Jenkins to, of course, later on we have the funk movement with Parliament, and then we move on to like rock with like Grace Jones and like Tito Bell and Scam from Skunk and Nazi. Like we have laid the groundwork for Black normies to come in and push these genres into the mainstream, or, of course, white people taking over these genres and pushing it further into the mainstream. And us as Black weirdos need to stand proud in our weirdom. We need to stop trying to dull ourselves for people who don't have eyes that want to see. Truly, I think us as Black weirdos, we shouldn't feel compelled to sort of always make ourselves more palatable for Black normie culture, especially considering that, again, we laid the foundation for these things. All these people were considered Black weirdos. Every single person who's innovated a genre, fashion, music, whatever, were all considered weirdos. They were on the outskirts of, they were the other Black people. I think of Outkast, like literally in their name, these two duos who found themselves outside of Black normative culture, especially in hip hop and the way Black masculinity is supposed to be presented. But these two men have been able to be one of the most successful artists in pop and hip hop culture. And I think we should take pride in that. Us as Black widows, we should take pride in this history, in our all the people who have laid the groundwork down. You know, from Black filmmakers like Bill Gunn and Kathleen Collins and just all these people, Jesse Maples, who laid these foundation down so that, more normative Black people can come in and push, push this genre, push this art form further into the mainstream. But we don't really get appreciated for being the ones that laid that groundwork out, frankly. And this is not to be divisive in any way, but I think many Black normies who exist in that Black normative culture should recognize that it is the Black alternative, it is the Black weirdos, the ones that you other and marginalized within our own community that are literally pushing the music, the culture forward in the future. Like I think of Afrofuturists and like Sun Ra, and I think of George Clinton, all these, you know, all in orchestra, how they literally have pushed the culture forward, and we like you wouldn't have Black Panther without a Sun Ra or like a George Clinton. Like they would not. We couldn't get that without these weirdos who thought differently outside of the norm. Truly. And I come here to say that. I come here to assure if you're a Black person who finds themselves, always being weird, infamously, a lot of us are called Oreos. Um, if you find yourself feeling like you are misunderstood, or you're feeling like some people are erasing your Blackness because it's presented in a way that doesn't conform to a certain tiny minuscule box that Blackness is forced to be in, both in community and clearly outside, who grant like clearly they were the ones who created the box for us to be in to begin with. um be proud. Be proud to be Black and freaky and weird, and to think outside the box. If you think your idea is too weird and eclectic, the world is literally burning in front of us. We need something different. We need something weird. And I had to assure myself of this myself because like it's hard. Like, it's extremely hard. Like, coming from marginalized background, being Black, being femme, being neurodivergent, and being queer, all of these things in one person. It comes with such a unique experience and perspective, and often I feel like that perspective within our community gets heavily policed. We I think us as a community needs to we really need to unpack a lot of our anti-Blackness and our own self-hatred, and why we feel like Black people need to constantly be inside boxes for us to feel comfortable. And so many institutions just want to keep us in boxes. They want to have a certain narrative of Black people that exists, and only slowly, maybe, maybe, embrace us Black weirdos and freaks. But in fact, those it's the Black weirdos and freaks that are keeping this genre, keeping this art form alive, keeping our culture alive. I think about these conversations around hip hop dying, and I feel like it's always just comes to the conclusion. It's like, oh, y'all just don't listen to experimental rap. Y'all don't listen to underground rap. You don't you like you your rap is like the top Billboard 100, hip hop songs. You don't listen to anyone whose work isn't on that, which you're missing out on so much great storytelling and sounds due to that. I think about all these like culture conversations of something dying, and this points to me it's like, oh, you just aren't really in the know. You're just looking at what's in front of you, what corporations like pushing this Black image, this Black sound. You're not looking at the people who are maybe on underground or independent Black artists. You are listening to like the JPEG Mafias, the Rico Nasties, the Eve's Tumor. Like you're not listening, you're not following these people. And I think about that a lot. When it comes to these random conversations, always pops up on the internet as discourse. It's us Black people who think outside the box, who are eclectic, that are pushing our culture forward in the future. And I feel like we should be embraced for it. All of us, all Black artists, no matter, being more normative or being more eclectic, experimental, we all are contributing something. And I truly think only one group is giving the most resources and materials to succeed. I often think about, again, going back to Black filmmaking, like someone like a Bill Gunn, who heavily inspired Spike Lee in his career, and like, in Black communities, Black Spike Lee is it's a household name. Versus, do people know who Bill Gunn is? The man who heavily inspired Spike Lee. And it's just like, when you watch Ganja and Hess, I tell you, it just changes your fucking perspective entirely of like what Black art can truly look like. Like, I mean, like, truly look like what Black filmmaking could look like, outside of this normative, often very whitewashed gaze that